Welcome back, Grace Life. I'm Lana Webb,
And this is Chris Webb.
and we're going back into the next lesson in our series. And today we're going to be focusing on Jesus walks on water, specifically the version from Matthew.
Yep, that's right.
Do you have any words you want to say?
Not yet.
All
I
right.
hope I got a few though. Keep going.
Yeah, so just feel free to open up your Bibles, follow along with us, and we're going starting in Matthew 14:22 through 36 today. And do you want to go ahead and pray for us?
Yeah, let me pray for us and then we'll dive into this. Father, thank you so much for loving us. Thank you for coming after us, Lord, for not leaving us, Lord, in our own state, but always wanting us to know you. And Lord, you made a way for us to know you. And I just pray that, Lord, through this message, that you would remind us of that you are drawing us to you in each and every way. And we just ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, well, let's go ahead and
Actually,
jump
I didn't
in.
head out. Sorry, guys.
All right. We're starting in Matthew 14:22. And I can already see here that there's a few words that you have underlined. And
I'll underline a few words.
so I'm guessing we'll go back to talking about those after we read this, right?
We'll see.
Right?
Let's
Awesome.
keep going.
Verse 22. Immediately he made the disciples go into the boat and go ahead of them to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After dismissing the crowds, Jesus went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Well into the night he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat was already some distance from the land, battered by the waves because the wind was against them. Jesus came toward them walking on the sea very early in the morning. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. Immediately Jesus spoke to them. "Have courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter answered him, "command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." And climbing out of the boat, Peter started walking on the water and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the strength of the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus reached out his hand, caught hold of him, and said to him, "You have little faith, why do you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those in the boat worshipped him and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." When they had crossed over, they came to the shore at Gennesaret. When the men at that place recognized him, they alerted the whole vicinity and brought him all who were sick. They begged him that they might only touch the end of his robe, as many who touched it were healed.
Great, man. It's another really infamous. Yes, it's the right word. Yeah.
No.
Infamous is not the right.
Infamous is famous for a bad thing.
Oh yes, this is not famous for bad things. This is a very. Yeah, that's why I should not have used that anyway. And guess what? We're not going to edit that out. We'll just continue going.
This is how it is. It's a very momentous part of the gospel.
Yeah, it's a very familiar, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Very familiar story that most of you guys have heard, in your life. If you have a church background, if you're part of our youth group, if you haven't, you may not have. I mean,
if you've gone to a children's class at all at church,
Yeah, but it's a different story, and we're coming right on the heels of the feeding of the multitude of the 5,000, and so that was our last week's lesson. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that. But we step right into pardon the pun, step right into this particular story and
walk right on to it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll walk right out there. But so it starts out with Jesus actually telling his disciples to go ahead and get in the boat, to go ahead and to go somewhere. He's going to stay back. He's going to take care of some business. I think it's just going to it's what it says. He's going to dismiss the crowd. Kind of give them some parting words and that type of thing. But he told the disciples, he said, "Man, I got this. You guys go ahead and kind of get ready. Make way." And so they did. And so Jesus dismisses them, and then it says he goes to pray. And so he goes to pray, and he's been praying for apparently a long while, because we'll read a little bit in the story. It is early morning, so I don't know if we don't know what time that is. But it sounds like it's probably right before daybreak, and they've been out rowing. They've been trying to get to this place for a long time, and it hadn't made it that far apparently.
Well, there was a storm.
Yeah, so there was a storm. It says they were battered, by the waves, and so here they are out there, and Jesus does, he spends his time with the Father, and heads out to them. And it says, this early, he comes out walking. It makes it I love it that they make it, there's no doubt that he's doing something miraculous here. That's what I love about this story. They make it says that Jesus came towards them walking on the sea very early in the morning. So this is something you're going to remember, when it happened. So, and then when he got there, they saw him, and it says they're terrified, man. They think he's a ghost. Now, I don't know why they always, it seems like if you read through, there's several different occasions where they actually, when they saw Jesus, they thought it was a ghost, especially after the resurrection, they thought it was a ghost. At different times, they were afraid of ghosts. And so, I don't know.
I think we can still get freaked out by them too. Like, just the idea of ghosts. I remember, not like me and my friends in the theater just playing around and speculating. You're like, oh, there's something creepy here in the theater, and we talk about there being ghosts, and I don't really think there was a ghost, but it still spooks you. It still freaks you out, even if you know that it's not real.
Well, their mindset, you got to think about it. Like, they've been out in the, so all day long. They've been working.
They're probably on the other side of the sea. They're like, how did Jesus get here?
Well, you got to think about it. They've been working. They were tired before they even started this journey. And they're probably thinking, oh, it's going to take us a little bit to get over here, and we'll get there and get some sleep. Well, that's not what happens. They've been awake all night long, and not only all night long. They have, they're in a storm. They're in it sounds like a pretty big deal here.
They've been working
as far as that goes. So they're probably exhausted. You're not in your right mind, that type of thing. They're probably at their wits' end, with everything. So, that's kind of the, we've all been there. Kind of just tired and exhausted, and you're not always thinking the best anyway. So here comes Jesus. And I just want, geez, no, I promise. No, here comes Jesus, and it's interesting. What I'd underline here a couple times is the word immediately. And when you read back through here, like 3 different times that word is used specifically. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, that it's the same word in Greek. So it's just like, and that's why they specifically use that here. And he's getting to them. So immediately he made them get into the boat. It's funny, and so then it says immediately he comes out to them. And then later on we're going to see that he does something immediately as well. Anyway, so Jesus spoke, so they're afraid, and he does like what he always does. And just hear this, he says, have courage. And I think we've brought this up before, that I think that is the subject that Jesus addresses more than anything else in the Bible and in the Gospels, is to take courage. And that should mean something to us, that he knows we are little faith. He knows that we're going to get scared, that we're not going to know what to do, and he immediately speaks to them. As it says immediately when they thought this, he said, Jesus spoke to them, have courage. And then he says, it is I. So I love that, man. It's like, it is I. So
I feel like that phrase is used in like pop culture, just to be like, do not fear, I am here to rescue you, or something like that. I'm thinking something in The Princess Bride or whatnot.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it's just completely flipped around about how grand it is for Jesus himself to be on the water and be like, hey guys, chill out.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid, it's just me. It's just your old pal.
It says, so it's really 3 statements he makes. It says, have courage, it is I. So, it's first of all, just make it clear, hey, man, guys, be courageous. Then it says, hey, it's I. You can be courageous because that. Then he goes back again and says, don't be afraid, or do not be afraid. So, it's 2 times it says more or less, have courage, don't be afraid, it's I. Man, I'll take care of things. And so, what, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So I'm thinking, just going back, and I think for us to put this in our own selves, I think he says that to us a lot of times. And I think we can get so wrapped up, and this goes on later in the lesson about what they focus on, about us having courage in our storms. But I feel like this goes into how sometimes in our head we can almost, I felt it, like you can hear almost a voice, an emotion that says, hey, this isn't a lie, this isn't Satan trying to tempt you, this is God, this is him speaking to you. And I think there is a clear distinction in that, and there's power in that.
Yep, absolutely. So just moving along here, it goes to verse 28, and it says, Lord, and this is Peter. He says, Lord, if this is you, command me to come to you on the water. Hey, puppy girl, you got to calm down.
She says, it is I.
It is I. Take courage. Oh, that's good, girl. You got to calm down. That's good.
All right.
All right. But anyway, now we'll keep going. We'll get her going. But we get to the part here that really that, to me, this is probably my favorite part, and this is absolutely what I love about this story, okay? So and that's probably one of the reasons I was looking forward to this story as much as anything. So verse 29, Jesus says, hey, come. And that's all he says. That's the word that's used. Hey, come. And so it says, so Peter climbed out of the boat and started walking on the water, coming towards Jesus. So it went from, think about this, it went from Jesus walking on the water to, I mean, this is just, this is typical Peter. Said, hey, Peter.
Typical
Said,
Peter.
hey, man, hey, who else is, honestly, like, I'm thinking, who else is it going to be? Like,
John?
I mean, you know, like, Jesus is like, I'm just thinking, Peter, who else is this going to be? You know, it's going to be Jesus. I mean, what he just fed, 5,000, 15,000 people. I mean, who do you think it's going to be, But it's really interesting. He's kind of saying, hey, if it's, and so, but it says, man, think about this. Peter gets out of the boat and he starts walking on the water. Like he's actually walking on the water. Now listen, I want us to camp out there a little bit, okay? I'll try not to be preachy, but think about it. Think about it. So it says, because we want to jump to the next section where it says, hey, when he saw the strength of the winds and the waves to become, and yeah, but guess what? Peter is the only one with the guts enough to get out on the water. I love that he.
And it's not in spite either.
No.
It's not in spite of like how I'll show him.
And Jesus, he said, man, come on, man. If you want to do what I'm doing, come on. It doesn't bother me. And I love that we always want to, we kind of want to give Peter a hard time. And I just now gave him a hard time a little bit. But but think about it. He is the only one in human history that we know that has actually walked on water. So he walked on it. He got out there when nobody else would have dared to do that. Now, man, he falls a little bit, but it doesn't matter because then he gets the opportunity, the privilege of Jesus saving him, And there are so many bumper stickers, one-liners in this section right here. But I just wanted to camp out there for a second and say, just challenge you, man, what is God calling you to do? And it's going to sound impossible. I mean, think about it. It is impossible. And Jesus, but he controls the molecules of the water. Anybody can do that and cause them to not rip apart. He can do anything.
And we can talk about surface tension, and we can talk about all kinds of other chemicals you can use to like make yourself kind of water resistant and stuff. But it's nothing compared to the true power of God. Yeah,
and he has control of all of that, and he does it. So this is, absolutely a true miracle. And then we get into the part, and I don't want to downplay because it's very important what happens here because he and you've heard you probably heard messages about keep your eyes on Jesus, and that's one of my favorite songs is Fix Your Eyes by I think King and Country or whatever. I love that song because it really reminds me to fix my focus on Jesus in every situation in life. But I love and the other part I underline is that he knew who to call out for. Man, he said Lord. He called him, and don't take that for granted. That's his maker. He said, Lord, ruler of all of heaven and earth, save me. And that's all it takes. I don't know who you are, where you are. If you're listening to this, I just will say, take the opportunity. Man, that's all you have to do. It's not that hard. Me and an older gentleman today had the privilege of praying with somebody to come to the Lord today. And it was such a, and that's really, I didn't have a great speech lined up or anything like that. It was just really hey, that's all you have to do is say, Jesus, Lord, save me. And he will. He'll do it right then if you're sincere and if you truly mean that. He'll do that. He'll pull you from the waves and from the sinking sea and put you on solid ground. So anyway, I was kind of preachy. So, but I wanted to, man, guys. That's what we're all about. For nothing else in life, is sharing that. So anyway, I've talked too much. You go on.
Yeah. So you're going into. I wanted to go into the simplicity of some of the words that we use. Yeah. So I think in this version, it says it's the
probably ESV. I think it is.
No, it's the CSB.
Yep. Common
Southern Bible. Let's go with common Southern Bible, right?
I think it's the Southern Baptist. I think it's the Common Standard Bible. Okay.
Well, anyway, I love what they do in this because they use such simple language.
Yeah.
it makes it really easy to understand,
Yep.
because I'm one of those people that if I can't understand the words, if it's all focused, I know when it goes into when there's tons of numbers and like, what is it, Leviticus and Numbers, the books, it's so confusing to kind of follow. But I feel like this version, they use it so well to say, they use the word immediately multiple times.
Yep.
They say, and I think it's not even that, it's what Jesus said. He's so concise and he narrows everything down. He says the 3 statements: have courage, it is I, don't be afraid.
Yep.
And I feel like that is so powerful. And then later on, all he has to say in this version to Peter to get him to come out of the water is come.
Yeah.
And can you imagine the power of just the Lord telling you just one word and then you obey?
Exactly.
It's that powerful. And then I'm thinking later on when you were talking about how Peter cried out, "Lord, save me," and addressed him as Lord. That almost reminds me of when someone is in danger, when a child is in danger and they cry out for their parents.
Yeah.
They cry out, they're asking, they're like, "Hey, I can't go anywhere else. Where are you? Can you help me?" And that's the natural instinct of a child. And I think that's Peter really realizing as well who he is in comparison to the Lord.
And then nobody else could save him at this moment.
Mhm.
And that's the thing we got to realize, is that no one can save us in life from death but Jesus. He is the only one that can save us, because he is the only one who ever conquered death himself.
Yeah.
So if you can conquer death, you know, you can save. I mean, you know, if you pull somebody out of the water, you know, you can save anybody. You're the only true one that has the ability to do that. You know, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you believe, or you know, why you believe what you believe, but this is why we believe what we believe. This is why we put everything at stake. Is because Jesus has the ability to save us from death. You know.
And I think I'm just amazed at some point how simple it is.
Yeah.
How simple it really is. And when you're really acting like a child and you're putting full faith in it, it's not hard.
No, that's right.
It's going to be difficult along the way, but it's not a hard thing to do initially. And I think that just amazes me every time God speaks and he just says, "Hey, you need to do this." It's so simple. It's a simple answer a lot of times, and we don't have to worry a ton about it. It's not for us to worry about.
Yep, we can take it. So let's get on to the next little part here. Maybe we'll you know, wrap this up a little bit. But so Jesus saves him. You know, it says, I love it. He reaches out his hand, called him, said to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" So, you know, I mean, he did kind of, you know, rebuke him a little bit. I don't know if that's the right word, but I mean, he let him know, "Hey, man, why did you doubt? You didn't have to. I told you, you know, it's all right."
I mean, it's even a good question, even not rebuking, and just like, "Hey, what's
And-
going on? What can we do better?"
And so,
it's almost that question.
yeah, why'd you doubt, man? You don't have to. I mean, you know, you didn't have to, you know, but he did, and I think that's just for us. I mean, we're all that fleeting.
It's not for God. It's
That's
a
just-
question for us.
That's normal, exactly. And so then you get into verse 32, 33. It says, when they got into the boat, you know, the wind ceased. So boom, immediately, because think about it, he never stopped it until he got into the boat. So Jesus gets in the boat, boom. It's like he had this planned all along, and I think he did. You know what I mean?
Of course he did.
So he gets in the boat, or he knew about it. I don't know if he planned it, but he knew, hey, it's all right. So he gets in the boat, man, it all just whoosh, ceases. And then, man, they fall and worship him, which is, you know, really that's the only true response to who he is. And guys, you know, we use this word worship a lot of times thinking like it's going to church. It's really not that. It's about, think about the way they looked at it in the Old Testament. It was all about giving and sacrificing, you know. And so when true worship, it's just giving your life to God. And that's what they did. They were like, man, he is the only one who's worthy. And that's where that word comes from, worship. You know, I'm going to give him worship because he's worthy of all of my affection, of all of my attention, of all that I have. And so it's just giving that you know, that focus, that attention to him. And I can imagine, I bet you anything, they were on their knees and they were, you know, looking to him. They understood that they were in the midst of something totally unique in
I
life.
think this calming of the storm, this automatically reminds me. I was telling you about this a few weeks ago. That I think it was sometime in May. There was a day where in China there was about to be a meeting by a lot of the head people and a lot of the councils to discuss I think a lot of it was like the outlaw of Christianity and different stuff like that, just different regulations they were going to put on. And it was very severe. And I remember I was watching, it was a few months later that I saw this,
Okay.
but I was looking back and I was seeing all these videos, and the sky went black in
Oh,
the
that's
middle
right.
of
Yeah,
the day.
you showed me that.
And it was incredible to watch the videos because it was complete, like, it was total darkness. It looked like it was night, but the timestamp said it was still 3 in the afternoon. And I think that even if there was happened to be a storm that was coming by that was going to make it that dark, there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Yeah.
And I think even though we don't see a lot of miracles like this, I feel like this talks about the storms. This talks about how Jesus can calm the storm, but I think he can also start the storm as easily as he can.
Well,
calm
you
it.
know, he probably did. He probably started this storm, you know, to get them in the situation. Think about it. And I'm not saying, you know, this way, but he was very capable of starting this storm, putting them in the midst of them, getting them to the, because he knew where they needed to be in order for them to call out and worship him. You know,
And while
so
it wasn't,
sometimes we. Let me
Yeah,
just
go ahead,
finish
go
here.
ahead.
Sometimes, you know, we're thinking, oh, we're in the storm. You know, and maybe God put you in that storm to get you to Him, to show you something that He couldn't show you any other way than if you were in that storm.
we
and-
hear it all the time of
Yep.
like, God is using our struggles that we have to help teach us so we can
Sure.
help other people in their struggles. And I feel like that's the same thing that we're doing here.
And you know, sometimes we really need, and we were talking about this a little about the lesson wants us to use the word storm. That's probably why we brought it up like 40 times and all the questions, and we were kind of wanting to steer away from that, not because it's a bad thing and not because of that,
It just
but,
has a different
but
connotation.
because we want you to understand that there's storms and we can look at them that way, but that's such a negative connotation. And these are really just chapters and seasons that God is writing out. You know, it's kind of like, and I think about it as like a musical score. And in that score, there are sessions that are like really lows to get you there, to bring you back up to these highs. And it's just an ebb and flow. You know, it's kind of music, and that's what we have in our lives. It's this beautiful kind of flow of notes and everything. I gotta move my hand up. Anyway, and so, you know, we sometimes look at things as like, oh, I'm going through this storm, and this life, what we're going through is so bad or whatever like that, and it is.
Life
I don't
is the
want to.
storm.
I don't want to take that
Itself,
away,
it's-
but it's actually an opportunity for us to draw closer to our Father, to our Creator. So it's, you know, it's a challenge. I mean, and I'm not making light of it. We've all been through those things. We all have been, but it's you know, and it's hard to see it sometimes in the midst of it. You know,
Yeah.
we get distracted. We're afraid. You know,
I think, and speaking of storms, there's thunder going by.
Thank
But I think the word storms, it makes it feel like there's going to be an end
yeah, exactly.
to the exact circumstance, when
Oh,
in
that's really
reality,
good.
I think Jesus, he doesn't, like how he uses this storm, the storm doesn't actually end here. The storm has continued on until like 2020, when
Yeah.
we're still talking about it. The storm isn't forgotten about, and I think that's what we have to remember.
Yeah.
And that's why we'd like to use a different word instead of storm, because we want to make sure that we remember and that we use our past experiences and our past faults to help us grow further into God, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, exactly. So we use storm a lot more than we said we were going to use the word storm, but I think we explained why we were doing what
Yeah,
we did. So
I think
anyway,
that was good.
That's good. That's good. Anything else? Anything else that jumps out to you in this story that you want to share?
No,
We kind of went a lot of different directions, whatever.
There's one part of this. At the very end, they go in like a little bit of a different direction. They talk about they went to Gennesaret, and the men of the place recognized Jesus. They alerted the whole place, brought him to those who were sick, and they all begged Jesus that they would touch the end of his robe, as many as it were healed. Do you know if it goes any more into that after?
Gosh, I'll have to look back because I did not read on in there. I'm thinking that in the other accounts of this story, what happens is they actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, that Jesus goes, the boat more or less goes immediately to the shore. So that's why I
Makes
keep thinking
sense.
about
Yeah.
that you know, Jesus, he has the ability to kind of transport them where, you look at, you're looking at things, and it's so funny, we want to, well, he can do that, but he can't do this, you know what I mean? And we should not minimize or limit what he can do. And I think that's exactly what happens. He says, man, okay guys, you've had your storm, boom. And so he can like keep you at one place forever, and it seems like forever. But think about it, within a snap of his finger, he can put you exactly where you need to be.
Again, with the chapter thing, I mean, sometimes you're reading a book and there's a chapter that there's just so much going on, or it seems so slow and dull and mundane, but then immediately everything picks up.
You turn a page and it changes everything.
And I think a lot of this shows how, even in the small little parts, there's so much in the Bible that isn't told in the Bible. There's so much that we know that God probably did back in the time. He probably performed thousands of more miracles, and we just don't know about them because they weren't written down and they weren't witnessed. And I think that even shows this is a little bit of a different tangent, but I think that shows even more of the humility and the compassion of God, that he doesn't always need to broadcast everything in the Bible. A lot of it is probably still kept in the hearts of those people who have passed now.
Well, it's the idea, I think, that it's all about God's glory, him getting credit for what he's done. But that doesn't mean always on a big scale. As long as he just wants you on an individual basis to recognize who he is, and and so it doesn't, he'll do a miracle for you just as much as he would do it for anybody else. But the miracle, I mean, the true ultimate miracle is, pulling your body from the grave, because think about it, if any miracle, I mean, if God did a miracle, for you on earth, I mean, which may be good and may be what you need, and he'll do those type of things. But I don't know of anybody but really Elijah and Jesus himself that didn't die. He's the only one that said, hey, listen, they're gonna bury me, and then 3 days later I'm coming out of there, and then had 400 people after that, see him, and then, raise up, going to heaven. I'm sorry, it's more than that. I think it's three.
That was 5.
We got to look at our, okay. We're not weighted that out. It just shows we
still got stuff to learn too.
We have stuff to learn, and I forget those numbers if I don't look them up, whatever like that. Actually, I think it was like several thousand anyway. But I may be getting that confused with the 3,000 that were saved at the day of Pentecost. So anyway, somebody can correct us, and I'm sure I'm going to go back and look at it, but to get that right, that doesn't matter. It was a multitude, and as eyewitness accounts of it, and so let's go. So I don't really have anything else. I was excited to go through this and really talk about if there's so many aspects in here, and there's so many things you can see and make it apply to your life. But the biggest part here is just knowing that, Jesus is possible of everything.
Yeah,
like anything and everything. So
we didn't go through many of the questions, but I feel like a lot of the questions, I don't know, they weren't the direction that we felt led this week.
Exactly. I think, and we
and
covered
that's what Scripture does.
Yep, and we covered some of the material, inadvertently anyway. So
And
great.
I know with this passage, a lot of times I almost was like, oh, this story again, because we've just seen it so many times. But it's so good to put it in a different light and to really just talk about it, because there is so much more in depth, and you can do that with any verse. You can do that with any passage, and I think that's just beautiful.
Yeah. That's why I love this. This is one of my favorite passages. It's probably my favorite miracles that Jesus did, and just passages. And it's just because I love that idea that, man, Peter, we give him a hard time, but dude, he walked on water, and I want that type of faith. I want, even if it's just for a moment, if Jesus tells me to come, man, I just go. I don't think about, he just said, dude, Jesus, there's a storm. I'm Peter. Man, I know, I believe in you. I don't want to test you. He could have said, hey, I don't want to test you. I don't want to, but he did. He said, man, tell me to come. It's you, Lord. And dude, Jesus said, come on. And I love it, and Jesus is just waiting for us to ask him, hey, is this you, Lord? And for he can bring us to where he is. That's the thing, he's bringing us to where he is. It's all about that. Just remember that, guys. Anyway, let's wrap it up. We're just short of 30 minutes here, and hey, we appreciate if you've listened to this, if you watch it, be blessed. Tune into our church, but more than anything else, tune into Jesus. Make him your focus, your light. And if you haven't done that, it's a great opportunity to do that. Like we shared today, all you have to do is say, Lord, save me, and he will. He'll do it right then and there immediately. He will save you. Okay? Anything else?
I'm all good.
I am too. Thank you guys so much. Be blessed. Have a good day. Bye.